What is going on, guys? It is Tyler here at the Queelam Farmstead, and today we're going to be taking some shiitake mushrooms that I grew and harvested and turning them into your own MSG seasoning. This morning I was out walking around before the rain started really hitting and found some chanterelles, which was amazing. It made me super ecstatic to know that I have chanterelles here on the property, among other mushrooms as well. But I also, for those of you that don't know, I grow my own mushrooms, gourmet and medicinal, to include but not limited to lion's mane, oysters, shiitake, wine caps, etc., etc. So I also had a lion's mane mushroom that I harvested and some shiitakes that I harvested as well. So the chanterelles and the lion's mane we're just going to throw into like a mushroom sauce and throw it over some rice. As for the shiitakes, we're going to take those and we're going to turn them into a seasoning that will enhance any dish that you add it to. Now, for those of you that have been following me from the beginning, you guys know that I have built this tiny house from the trailer frame up and then some, and then I'm also rebuilding my farmstead as well. Haven't done too much on the tiny house since the last update, but that's mainly because I've been preserving, harvesting, and I still have been trying to get beds and everything ready outside in prep for spring, because it'll be here before we know it, and now is time to prep your soil. So next week, next Wednesday, there's going to be a video on what to do now to prep for springtime. That way you don't have to do as much prep come springtime. For today, I'll show you guys, I did a little bit of the fushigi bun on some of the panels that were in here. I still have to do my cabinets, and I still haven't done like trim or anything like that, but I did, you can see kind of here behind me. I also did the stairs and started working on all of that, and I got a good portion of my flooring done. I got the kitchen and the living room, and you can see kind of up here, the top of the stairs is the same as the bottom of the stairs, and then I used that this flooring for the kitchen, and then I did a different one for the living room area just to kind of separate the different rooms in the tiny house and to kind of add more character to this tiny house and make it pop a little bit more. But as for making this seasoning that we're gonna do, because I am out, and why not take something 100% organic, literally just shiitake mushrooms, and turn them into something that can enhance flavors, make cheese cheesier, milk milkier, meat meatier. Like, this stuff is amazing. And you can even take a teaspoon of this, add it to a cup of water, and you got a nice mushroom broth base that you can throw into sauces, sautés, use it to mix in with soups with like a mirepoix. Like, there's so many different applications for this, like, and it can go in literally anything. You could probably even use this in desserts. We're gonna play around with it, but it's gonna be interesting. So to start it out, we're gonna dehydrate a bunch of these shiitake mushrooms. I have my little setup here next to the wood stove for stuff like mushrooms. I have a little rack that I set up on top of it. That way it elevates it to the right temperature to dehydrate. And it takes about a day, 2 days for things to dehydrate, like mushrooms, tomatoes, stuff like that. Herbs, it takes about a day. But once you have your shiitakes dehydrated, you're going to take about a pound of undehydrated shiitakes, and you're going to add them to a pot of water and then bring that up to a simmer. Now, the amount of water is determined by the amount of mushrooms that you are using. I didn't actually measure the water, but if you're doing this, you want it to be about double the volume of your mushrooms. And then you're going to let that simmer and reduce down about 80%. Once it's reduced down, you're going to strain those mushrooms out, and then you're going to set that aside. And then we're gonna take our dehydrated shiitakes that we dehydrated a few days ago, and we're gonna turn those into a powder in our blender. We're gonna combine the two into a paste, like almost like you're making a graham cracker crust. And we're gonna press that into a sheet pan with parchment paper, separating it, and we're going to dehydrate that either in your oven on warm or in a dehydrator, or in my case I'm going to be using my wood stove to dehydrate it. Once it is dehydrated, we're going to be throwing all of those leather bark like pieces back into our blender and turning that into a very fine powder. Now, as you are blending it, you can run it through a fine mesh sieve and then run those particles that don't go through the sieve back through the blender to make sure that you are getting everything into a powder. Once it is in a powder, this is where you want to adjust your salt level. Now, you want this to be just a little over salty. You want it to punch because this isn't the actual finished taste. This is what's going to enhance the flavors. It'll go from a mushroom taste to a umami taste, so something delicious, and you'll taste the difference. Now, it's okay if you actually oversalt this just a little bit because, like I said, you're going to be adding it to things, so you can just compensate for that when you are cooking your dishes by not adding as much regular salt when you add this MSG replacement to your dishes. Now, this seasoning is used to make meat taste meatier, cheese taste cheesier, dairy taste dairier, and just enhance flavors. It's anything that you would normally use MSG for, you can use this for. If you just want some pop to your dishes, or you want to just enhance some flavors, you want to pull things forward. Hopefully you got something out of this. There's some updates on the tiny house, got the floor done, as you saw. Did some of the fushigi bun on the interior and making progress on that. But till the next one, guys, thank you for hanging out with me.